All right, here we are. It's 31 minutes past 7 a.m. It is a money making Monday morning. This is Smooth 98.1. We are your love music, love live station. My name is Ayokunmi, and it is that time to take a look at the stories in the papers, bringing you the headlines, analysis, and we take your thoughts, your opinions, and of course, your messages. Please do well to join us this morning as you always do. Send those thoughts in to us on WhatsApp on 0809 444 And you can also join the live stream on YouTube. We're at Smooth 981 FM Lagos. Smooth 981 FM Lagos. All you have to do is drop your comments in the chat box and I'll take them alongside the WhatsApp messages. Joining me this morning to take a look at the stories, give their analysis as well, and make sense of everything that we're going to be talking about. Mr. C and AB Bozimo are with me on a Monday morning. Good morning to you, gentlemen.
Good morning, Mr. C. Good morning, Ayo, and good morning to the marvelous money-making Monday crew out there.
Good morning, AB. Good morning, Nayo. Good morning, Lagos.
All right, and on a lighter note, another reason to actually join the live stream on YouTube, AB has a very interesting shirt on. I mean, this will get inspiration for your fashion choices going into the week. I've been eyeing it since he came on. I just didn't see anything up until now. Maybe I guess you get the hint of what I'm trying to say here. I will leave it after that. All right, let's get into the nitty-gritty of the matter this morning. And we're going to begin, Mr. C, this morning, taking a look at a story that is coming out of the Punch newspaper. Now, it says the monthly statutory allocations to state governments from the Federation accounts may decline in the coming months following an official request by the Nigerian Sovereign Investment Authority, the NSIA, to boost the nation's residual funds with the support of 100 billion naira monthly. Now, this request which was presented by the Managing Director and Chief Executive Officer of NSIA, Aminu Umar Sadiq, is aimed at unlocking large-scale investments to drive Nigeria's economic growth. Mr. C, could you give us some perspective on this particular story here?
Okay, thank you. So, National Sovereign Investment Authority was set up, I think, 10, 15 years ago under the last PDP administration. And it was set up primarily to ensure that Nigeria had money saved to use for investment purposes. And it was implemented or established to run like the Norwegian Sovereign Trust Fund, which currently is over $1 trillion in assets. Now, over the years, we've seen the good work the NSIA has been doing in Nigeria, from funding various projects to ensuring that there's money available for the federal government and for interested state governments to fund certain projects. Okay. Now, they're requesting that going forward from the March allocation, which should be distributed to the various states, that the sum of 100 billion naira from the residual fund will be set aside for the NSIA to build up a fund that will boost Nigerian projects, Nigerian industries. Now, this 100 billion comes from the amount that is over and above the expected revenue from hydrocarbons. And by hydrocarbons, I'm referring to gas, I'm referring to the sale of crude oil. So anything over and beyond that, they are requesting 100 billion be set aside. Now, remember, we have 36 states and the Federal Capital Territory. So, because they're not taking it from their state allocations, but from the residual amount, it is hoped that the commissioners of finance in all the states will agree to this gesture. Now, why is this important? This is important because the excess crude account is down to $473,754. This is truly shocking because when that account was set up in 2010, ladies and gentlemen, that account at its peak held $50 billion.
And we're down to less than 500,000.
We're down to less than $480,000 away. Now, it is truly shocking because the governors at that point in time went to the Supreme Court for a declaration that the excess crude account was an illegal account and the money should be shed. And remember, it was that buffer that helped Nigeria during the global economic crisis in 2007, 2008, that we didn't feel the full effects. And that coincided with the period where we had the first wave of reverse japa. We had Nigerians who had studied and lived abroad in the UK and the US returning to Nigeria. Now that buffer is gone. Sadly, we may not get it back. In the last 10 years, we haven't built it back.
So is it safe to say that because we haven't had that buffer in the last couple of years, that we found ourselves in the kind of situation we found ourselves in economically?
No, so it's part of the reason.
Another part of the reason is bad governance.
And the fact that we haven't been as productive as we used to be in the years gone by. Now, the NSIA is saying, look, we need to start saving money again. And let's start with 100 billion every month. Now, for the rest of this year, if the NSIA gets its way, we're looking at 900 billion naira saved. 900 billion naira saved is not really a lot of money when you convert it to dollar terms, but it is a start. We need to move away from this consumption and spend model we're running back to a savings model. Because the truth of the matter is, we are the only ones who can truly help ourselves. The foreigners are not going to do it because it's not in their interest to do so. If you have a huge buffer, you can then deploy it wisely, smartly, and productively to transform your economy. It is no mystery, it is no surprise that during that period where we had about $50 billion in the excess crude account, the Nigerian economy was one of the highest performing economies in the world. It's no surprise, it's not rocket science, it's not magic. And it's equally no surprise that now that there's literally no buffer, the economy is taking a huge pounding. Again, it comes as no surprise. What is truly shocking is that in the past 10 years, there has been no concerted desire or will to grow that account again, or to grow our savings in whatever accounts, however so named. And it begs the question, what is the ultimate game plan here? What is the long-term vision? What is the long-term play for Nigeria? We're not asking the questions. We have elections. People don't even turn up for debates, don't bother to articulate anything. Where policies are articulated, we don't get any details, and no surprises, we're still where we are. So let us hope that the commissioners of finance will agree to this. If they refuse, fail, or neglect to grant the wish of the NSIA, Nigerians were in for a very, very interesting ride going forward.
A very interesting ride, even more interesting than the ride we've been on recently. Maybe you have something to add to this.
Yes, I'm happy to know that Nigeria can afford a house in a medium suburb in America, the whole country. Right now, with the funds we have, we can afford one house in a medium grade suburb in America. Well done to our economic management team. It's unfortunate.
Tongue in cheek. All right, Ibi, I'm bringing this to your doorstep here, and we're talking health matters. In fact, we'll talk health matters back to back. This is coming out of The Guardian, and it has to do with malaria, where it says Nigeria accounts for 31% of global malaria deaths and 27% of total cases worldwide. That's according to the World Malaria Report of 2024. Now, the country also accounted for nearly 40% of worldwide malaria deaths among children under 5. Now, about 55 million cases of malaria and 90,000 malaria-related deaths occur in the country every year, while the economic burden of the disease in the country was estimated at about $1.6 billion in 2022 and may increase to about $2.8 billion in 2030. AB, just looking at these figures has my head spinning around and round. And it's, you know what, let me allow you to get your thoughts on it.
You can imagine that infusion of productivity into the country, 1.6 and 2 point something billion dollars. There's no Nigerian who has not experienced malaria by this time. Most of us have had it at one stage or the other. And we know that the real challenge with malaria sometimes isn't the most extreme time when you are shivering and all that, but how your productivity drops while you're falling ill, and how it takes a long time.
Are you there, Abby? Looks like okay, looks like a connectivity issue. And I hope AB can get that resolved and continue his submission, because things are just getting really interesting with his thoughts about this malaria issue. We'll see if we can get AB back on board as soon as possible. Meanwhile, Mr. C, let me see if I can, get you on the other side of a particular issue, talking about health matters this morning on the show. And that has to do with the Akwa Ibom State government, really. This is coming out also the Daily Trust. Now, it says that the Akwa Ibom State government say it has entered a bond with its medical trainees to protect its investment and prevent them from absconding. I like that word, absconding. Now, the government said this is one of its strategies to stop brain drain of its trained medical professionals, saying it's now mandatory for them to serve the state before they leave the country for greener pastures. Mr. C, this is a classic case of slapping a band-aid on a broken arm, not dealing with the actual issue. I mean, there are so many loopholes in this particular move being made by the Akwa Ibom State government, which is symptomatic of what is going on generally in the country. And we've heard about this issue of, the possibility of doctors, being bonded to the government to work for a period of time before they leave and all that. What do you think about this?
Okay, thank you, Ayo. You're right. They're trying to slap a bandage onto a broken shoulder or broken limb. So we all know what the problem is. Poor working conditions, poor pay, poor employment prospects, very poor growth prospects. Now, the Akwa Ibom State government is saying that once they send a trained medical personnel on further training, the personnel or the individual concerned will then have to spend a number of years working for the state government in lieu of that training. Now, in other words, that they're saying the person becomes bonded. Now, I have my concerns about that, and they're even legal. Let us remember that the basis of every employment contract is that the employee provides his time, his services, his knowledge and expertise, and in return is paid a salary, an agreed salary. Now, when you send an employee on training, it is because you want the employee to become better at what he does to improve further delivery on his output.
Right.
Now, where an employee has been trained by the Akwa Ibom State government and he has received the training, you then say he's bonded for 4 years. One, you take away his constitutionally guaranteed right to resign. Because at the end of the day, there must be freedom of mobility within employment circles. So the same way I can start working for company A today, then 6 months later, I decide I don't want to work with company A anymore. I want to work with company K. And I should be free to do that, provided I'm not owing any sums of money to company A. And I haven't breached the terms of my employment. Now, my question to the Akwa Ibom State government is, where an individual has received training from you, and the individual now decides he no longer wants to be a medical doctor, where does that leave? Second question is, where he decides he's going to relocate and he actually relocates, is he prohibited from returning the amount of money spent for that training? So can he not pay back that money and move on with his life? Now, we hear that they're going to go to the Council for Medical Doctors and Practitioners to ensure that they don't issue release forms or release statements for doctors who intend to emigrate to other countries. Now, more importantly, right, at the end of the bond, and they leave, and these individuals now leave the employment of the Akwa Ibom State government, what is the plan? Who replaces that hole? Who replaces that vacuum?
Exactly what I was thinking.
will you have a sufficiently trained individual with the requisite years of experience to step into that void and fill it sufficiently? So for me, this is not the best way to address this situation. And luckily, from the story, they say it's one of the strategies. We would love to hear the other strategies and maybe believe that the other strategies actually hits the nail on the head rather than this, which is just temporary and doesn't address the real issues on the ground. The real issues on the ground. How do you fund the hospitals within the state-owned hospitals and primary health centers? How do you provide drugs to them? How do you provide power and utilities to them? These are the issues that must be addressed. And until you address these issues, you will continue to dance around in circles and continue to attempt to apply plaster and bandages to broken limbs and joints.
Continue to apply plasters and bandages to broken limbs and joints when you know what actually needs to be done. Let me take a message here. This is from Ajayi Olonilowa in Magudu, Jerry Sherry. He says, it's not surprising that Nigeria accounts for about 31% of malaria deaths worldwide, as our health infrastructure, like every other sector, is comatose. Imagine even our solar clinic cannot boast of release of medical supplies despite billions of naira yearly allocation. God help us indeed. God definitely has to help us. We need to help ourselves as well. Tony Marimbi says the last time Ngozi Okonjo-Iweala advised on savings, it was opposed by the politicians, especially the governors, who turned back to blame former President Jonathan for our economic woes. We're blessed with leaders who like to whack at sight everything that looks like money. Unfortunately, so we don't have the crop of leaders who support the idea of savings. They readily prey on anything that passes by because it's their turn. I wonder if they treat their personal lives that way. You know, just whack everything on site and not save anything or invest anything. I just wonder. Anyways, AB, glad to have you back. I can see that you've been having a Royal Rumble with network connectivity. But
apologies for the technical snafus. The bottom line, I was just going to round up very quickly. Malaria, the approach was trying to give more drugs. The actual problem is that malaria is more of an engineering problem than it is one of, solution. You don't want to cure what you can prevent. If we design and develop a way.
Looks like we're not okay. Looks like we're not totally out of the woods yet. Are you with us, AB? Okay, looks like we need to.
AB.
Okay, AB. I think AB. I think you need to log out of the call and then come back in again. Maybe that would help with connectivity issues that you have at the moment. Hopefully. Okay, let me take this message here. This is Christy in Ikeja, and it says, if you train someone as a driver, then he says he wants to go and drive someone else, or decides he no longer wants to be a driver. Will you think that is okay?
Okay, so Christy, I'm a bit puzzled by this statement. Are you suggesting you're going to force him to do what he doesn't want to do? If he said, whether you train him or not, if he says he no longer wants to drive for you, that's the end of the story. You move on with life and you get another driver. You cannot force him to do what he's not prepared to do. Remember, everybody has freedom of will to do what they want with their lives.
Okay, let me see here. This is Adigboyega Adidiji, and his message says on Nigeria becoming a one-state party. We haven't even gotten around to talking about that one. So let me keep that message in my back pocket for the moment. And AB, are we out of the woods finally? Can you hear me, AB?
I'll just say, yes, I'm hearing you. We just need to improve our drainage, then we'll minimize malaria and we'll minimize how much we have to treat people after the fact. Let's go on.
All right, AB, let's keep it moving, and let's switch from matters of health to education, and let's talk about JAMB, because this particular issue has been all over the weekend, and this is coming, we're taking this out of the punch. It says no fewer than 40 persons have been arrested and are facing prosecution for impersonating candidates during the ongoing 2025 Unified Tertiary Matriculation Examination. The Joint Admissions and Matriculation Board has disclosed. Now, this is as many parents and guardians are lamenting that the 6:30 a.m. resumption time for the exam was too early for candidates, adding that many may have to travel several kilometers to their examination centers. This particular issues where JAMB is, or DTME actually is concerned, raged over the weekend. There was even a story of a young girl who was missing for a bit. Unfortunately, she was found, I think in Djibouti. She boarded the wrong bus, or according to the reports that I actually saw. But there's a lot of things have been said about this particular thing. But one thing that sticks out for me is, the responses that JAMB have been given. It's akin to a political figure responding to critique and criticisms rather than a body that is supposed to, should I say, have a level of decorum, if I can put it that way, coming out to actually respond and deal with the issue. But AB, let me get your thoughts on the matter.
Ayo, that was exactly my finding when I read the story. The person who was supposed to be the spokesperson for JAMB was entirely reckless, irresponsible, and totally unprepared for his job. Their complaints, I want to put up front that JAMB has done their best, apparently, to try and distribute examination centers as widely as possible in what they consider to be examination towns. And they hope and expect that people will make their way to those particular towns and do the best that they can to be relatively near the examination centers. Kudos to JAMB. But this spokesperson sounded so detached from people's issues. Like you said, some people go to places. He makes a point that if you have an exam at 8 o'clock, you do not expect to be there at 8. And he does make a point that when you have to go to an airport or something, we all know you normally put a number of hours before you travel. Those are not the issues. His tone, the words he chose, the attitude were entirely out of line. Talking about when we develop to be the level of Qatar and so on. Nobody's asking you that. They have clarified that no exam starts at 6:30. Indeed, exams only start from 8. And indeed, it is proper for people to get to exam centers before the exam starts so they can do pre-examination processing. All this, I think, is perfectly in order. What was missing was any atom of, I would go as far as saying, humility and professionalism in his responses. So I'll say nobody expects somebody to go and start an exam at 6:30. It would be impossible. They're starting at normal official time, 8 o'clock, and they have like 4 sessions. So that's good. They're doing what they can to plan. Also, they've tried to distribute centers so nobody has to travel more than 1, 2, maybe 5 kilometers to a center. All this is very good. But honestly, if you ask me, they should change and sack that person who was speaking in response because he had not an atom of common sense.
You know what, Mr. C, I know you want to jump in on this one, but I also need to say, concerning what AB just said, about how candidates are posted to centers not so far from their areas. I mean, there have been several reports of people who said they've been posted to centers way out of their jurisdiction, if I can put it that way. A lot of teething issues, a lot of issues concerning these exams. Those need to be addressed.
So yes, Ewa, you're correct. And I'm thinking, right, why are we starting exams at 8? I remember writing JAMB, I think it was 9 o'clock we started. Now, what is the wonderful magic about starting an exam at 8 o'clock, knowing fully well you've tossed candidates to all sorts of far-flung places, far from where they live, and they have to journey to those places? I would have thought that you start at 9, which gives them time to get to the center, time to relax. Now, from the statement of the spokesperson, they expected to get there for 6:30. but the exam starts at 8 o'clock. What are you keeping them there for 90 minutes? You say you're carrying out preliminary checks. What preliminary checks are these? How long do they take to carry out? Because you will think, okay, what's a preliminary check? Confirm your candidate number, search you, make sure you're not carrying any foreign material. How long does that take if you're doing it properly and quickly? How long should it take? So yes, they need to look into these matters because remember that Nigeria is not exactly safe. Traveling by road is not exactly a venture I would advise anyone to embark on.
Right.
So they need to take all of these things into account and then plan better for next year.
And
Because I'm not
hire
even
a better spokesperson. That spokesperson lacked empathy. He lacked insight. He lacked
I agree.
the ingredients to be a spokesperson.
So they have many things to learn from this year's exercise, and I can only hope they get it better next year. Do the SSC exams start at 8 o'clock? I don't think they start at 8.
To the best of my knowledge,
So where did we get this idea of starting tertiary matriculation exams at 8 o'clock? Where did that idea spring from?
Mr. C, they seem to have 4 sessions a day. So I think we are thinking back to the time when we all sat for JAMB once in a whole country on one day. Now they have more than one day and 4 sessions per day. There are that many more people. I'm not giving any excuse for the way the man spoke, but they are doing what they can to organize it. They should, like you say, take the people's consent. And there was even a center in Adamawa State where the exams were going on and the generator ran out. So when you talk about somebody saying until we're developed like Qatar, I just think the man was out of turn, out of place with the way he was speaking. He was completely in the wrong mind space. He's not fit for the job.
All right, AB, thank you for that one. Mr. C, let's quickly rush through this one because, like I said, I kept Adeboyega's message in my back pocket, and it's in response to this particular matter out of the premium time, so we will rush through this one. Now, Delta State Governor Sheriff Oborevwori has promised to get 1.4 million votes for President Bola Tinubu in the 2027 presidential election. Now, he made the promise on Wednesday when he announced his defection to the All Progressives Congress from the People's Democratic Party. Now, the governor moved to the APC with his deputy, Monday Onyeme, his immediate predecessor and PDP 2023 vice presidential candidates Ifeanyi Okowa, and the entire PDP structures in the state. You would think that he was moving to the APC for the betterment of the people of Delta State. Apparently, from what he has said, it's all about winning, getting the votes for President Tinubu 2027.
So, I'm going to start with 2 things. In local parlance, there's an expression, now so. Then there's a Latin expression, nemo dat quod non habet. You cannot give what you don't have. This governor promising the moon and the galaxy, how many votes did he get to become governor? That he's promising someone else 1.4 million votes. How many people turn out for elections in Delta? In the last election, 615,000 voters turned out for the presidential election. So that is at least 800,000 less than he's promised 1.4 million votes.
Things could change.
Nothing's going to change. This guy is just telling, see, all of them do things for their personal interests, not for the common interests of the people. And it will be interesting to see how they want to pull this off, because what he's saying is 1.4 for a particular candidate. So what will the other candidates get? So it's shocking that they're now telling us what they're going to do ahead of time, and they're no longer afraid of the consequences. But not a problem. 2027 will come. We will all be alive. We will all see what happens.
By the special grace of the Lord, we'll all be here. Okay, let me rush
Except
through your...
we will not all be alive. At this rate, people in Plateau and Benue would not be alive because we do not seem to have a care for them. But maybe the rest of us may be around to witness it. 250 people will not be there, at least in Benue and Plateau states. Let's never forget that.
Right, let me take your messages. This is Philip Japo in Akpojo, and he says, you can only have credible opposition if the opposition is made up of credible members who do not have cases of graft hanging on their necks. Unfortunately, the PDP and other parties are fielding candidates that APC can easily bring cases against or compromise or entice to join their party. Although we have 10 candidates in the opposition, nothing will change. I mean, was it not former governor of Edo State, Adam Smith, that said, come to the APC, your sins shall be forgiven. Go forth and sin no more. I added that one to the mix, but make of that what you will. Idimapuza and Surulere says the normal time for examination to start is 9 a.m. to give people time to get to the exam centers in time. All right, Tunji says, my daughter wrote JAMB last year and we had to get there by 6:30 a.m. This JAMB staff got there at 7:30 a.m. Very inconsiderate. These are the issues. These are the issues. Tony says, sincerely, JAMB's action this time around was so ridiculous and frightening. I cannot imagine my little niece having to move to her location a day before to stay in a hotel all alone, as there was no other option, all because she wants to write exams. This is nothing less than a horror movie. I still can't believe it. Someone needs to be called to question on this unimaginable action. I think I saw a comment or two on YouTube. Let me take those really quickly. Mudukwe Folari says, Mr. C, I like your haircut. Okay, Mr. C. And then Ms. Chen says, EB Network has malaria.
Good one.
Goodness. Gracious. Anyways, thank you so much for all the messages. We need to call it money. Oh, I'm so sorry. I didn't take Adeboyega's message. I kept it in my back pocket. He says on Nigeria becoming a one-party state, the bastardization of our judiciary and total grip and control of the ruling party on the affairs and decision of Nigeria's judiciary is why many politicians, sitting governors in opposition parties are opening and secretly joining and supporting the ruling party, the APC. It's a longer message, but I think I can just take that out to get thank you for the message and thank you for keeping it tuned to Smooth 98.1 and Smooth Breakfast. Big thank you to you, AD, and to you, Mr. C. I hope you can give the network the necessary education needed to get things sorted out.
I really hope so. It'll be sorted out side by side with Nigeria's problems. But by God's grace, everybody in the studio and all our listeners will have a fantastic week ahead. God bless you all. Thanks for your patience.
Thank you, AB. Thank you, Ayo. Nigerians, let's go through this week. Let's do the best we can and let's get those wins in.
Okay. Indeed. Let's do the best we can. Carpe diem. Seize the day. Keep it tuned. The Smooth Breakfast will continue 8:15 and we'll take a walk into the locker room. It's all about good sporting action.